Hello, friends, and welcome to another episode of Booked. It's me, Saffron. I'm always here, and I'm joined by today's guest, Toby LeBlanc. I hope that I've pronounced your name correctly because I didn't ask you before.
No, you got it. You got
Okay,
it.
cool. I assumed it was like Matt LeBlanc, and that's what I was channeling when I was saying your name. So,
Do well.
how are you doing today?
Doing quite well. Thank you.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. Thank you for making the time to be here today. I feel like this was a long time coming. All of the shows have been a long time coming because I've planned so far in advance, like a maniac. So I'm glad that you're still with us and that you're still in the game of writing. It's been that long.
I've been looking forward to this. No, I wouldn't miss it.
Awesome. I'm so sorry, Sarah. I didn't mean to scare you, but that is just the name of the booked intro game. You can blame my nephew for that because he wrote the music. And hello, Richard. It's nice to see you. I'm glad that you joined us today. So yeah, we're going to talk about your books and stuff. I hope you're excited.
Very, very excited.
Good. So you have two books out. One is a novel and one's a collection of short stories. So your novel Dark Rue came out in 2022, and your most recently published work is Soaked, which is the collection of short stories, which came out in February.
That's correct.
So it's still a baby.
It's newborn. Yeah, we have not even a year old. Not even the book anniversary yet.
Oh, that's so exciting. Have you got any plans for the book anniversary?
I think I'm going to do a giveaway.
Oh, nice.
I like to do with Dark Rue. I did a 6-month giveaway and then a year giveaway, and life happened this year, and I didn't do a 6 months. So I'm going to give away. I want to give away 2 books on the book anniversary, which is in February. So yeah, if you're in the market for a new book, stay tuned on how to get connected to that.
Excellent. We love that. Already giving stuff away. You have to wait until February. But that's very exciting. So let's talk about Dark Rue first. For those who are totally unfamiliar with you and what your work is, what can a reader expect from that particular novel?
So Dark Rue is set in South Louisiana, deep inside of Cajun culture. So I know the word Cajun gets thrown around a lot in the world, Cajun food, Cajun music. But I wanted to create a novel, create a story about what Cajun culture actually looks like, and what that part of the world, how it operates, and then what the people are like in it. So it is a family saga. It's 4 family members who are telling the same story in 4 different ways. So they're all looking at the same experience, but just telling their story slightly different from one perspective to the next. And it's all about this family right around Mardi Gras, the Mardi Gras season, which is in South Louisiana as popular, if not more popular than any other holiday season. And they are starting to fall apart as a family. They don't know how they fit together anymore. They don't know how to love each other. They don't know even how they fit inside of their Cajun culture. And when the patriarch, Auguste Chanvert, he dies, and it kind of shows them where their lines are. It shows them how their pieces do in fact fit together and where they fit together as a family. So as you read the story, you get to see, first of all, Auguste is he's quite the character. So seems to be everybody's favorite, I'm happy to say. And then how they interact with him being the kind of the scion of their culture, and how they then make it their own. That's what the book's based in.
Wow. So is this based on experiences that you have had living in the area? Are these people that you know that have made an impression on you? Like, what was the it's an awful question, I know, but what was the inspiration behind this particular story?
Yeah. It actually, oddly enough, the inspiration came out of, I think it was an NPR bit years ago, because really Dark Rue, I started writing it, I think in around 2014. And then it got published in 2022. So it was a long journey toward actually getting finished and out in the world. But I was listening to an NPR bit about a writer in New York who just wanted to tell the inside track on what it's like for the Jewish community inside of New York. It's like, wow, that would be so cool if I did kind of like a tell-all and a cultural exploration of where I come from and my own people. And that just continued to grow and to grow. And then every character in that book is absolutely somebody I know. Uh, so Auguste is he's a conglomeration of several men.
Mhm.
He is a little bit of my stepfather, a little bit of my father, a little bit of actually an ex-girlfriend's grandfather, and then there's this fiddle player that I used to watch on like documentaries on that Cajun slash Creole fiddle player,
Mhm.
and he became part of um, that character profile as well. So he's a conglomeration of a lot of people.
Mhm.
The dad, John, he was a lot of the not so good characters that I knew. A lot of the not so good um, Cajun men that it still hadn't figured out how they were going to interact with the world in a way that wasn't going to destroy it and destroy the people around them. And then Will and Addison, the two children in the book, they were just all my friends growing
Mhm.
up, and kind of how they came of age inside of the culture, inside of this region, and how they tried to even break out of that culture and get out of that region. That was a major part of the story too.
Mhm.
Feels like all the stories in the South are always about somebody trying to get out of there, and that's the story as well. So, um, and then Beatrice, the mom, she was I'm happy to say that whenever I have people from back home read Beatrice, every single person has said, "Oh my God, this is my mom. That's my mom." So
Really good,
Beatrice is just
actually.
everybody's mom in South
Mhm.
Louisiana. She's exactly like them in all the good ways and maybe not so fun ways.
So the way that you, because it sounds like quite an emotional story, um, filled with growth and self-discovery. Do you? I'm going to back up a little bit. So you have experience in the field of psychology. Has that been helpful for you to be able to like unpick the way that people work in terms of your storytelling?
So specifically like psychological theory, things
Mhm.
like that, not as much. But what has been, so I have worked as a mental health therapist for the last 20 years. What that work has taught me is it's been an inside track on people's motivations.
Mm.
That you sit with somebody, you begin to understand why they did something, even if it's something so, seemingly um, out of character, or doesn't seem like you could ever understand why somebody would do that. And then you start to listen to their story
Mm.
and it starts making a lot of sense about why they made the choices that they did, and how they got to the thinking that they got to.
Mhm.
So I would say that that particular practice, not so much the theory, but the practice of learning about people and learning about their motivations, is what I've incorporated. So that, I mean, in that old saying in writing, they say show don't tell.
Mhm.
Um, the show, I've learned, is more about understanding motivations. That when a character does something, you know why, and that is what I've spent my career doing, is learning the whys.
Mhm. I mean, that's the most fascinating part of interacting with humans for me, and especially interacting with fictional humans, to make them feel less fictional, because everybody has had a completely different life to one another. Like some are
Hmm.
similar, but they are totally, totally different. Even if it's just like minutes out of the day, can completely change somebody and how they react to things. And something that I personally have learned growing up, and as I sort of became an adult and less of an angsty teenager, I realized that when people, for example, get annoyed at me, or, they're angry, I try my best to put myself in a position where I think, I wonder why they're doing that, because I can't understand why they're doing it at me. And rather than being then reactive about it,
Hmm.
I find myself like giving them a lot more slack because I
Hmm.
think, well, I don't know how their day's gone, and I don't know what their experience has been like. And maybe this is just like a time when something really bad happened. So I love that when that's included in books, because I want to feel like these are real people.
Right.
Um, Even if it's like a fantasy setting and they're like elves and fairies and stuff, I want to believe that they have like actual brains that do things.
I want my elves to be realistic.
I can't help that.
So it's funny you should say that about our perceptions of how people are reacting to us, because it's what I spent a lot of time on in Dark Root,
Mm,
is that we we often think we know people, especially the people in our families, that we know them intrinsically, that we know their stories. We do know their motivations because we are the ones who have spent the most time with them.
Mm-hmm.
We've watched them through so many different situations in life. We've shared genes with them. We feel like we know them. But what I really tried to capture in Dark Brew is how, in some ways, we do. We absolutely do know them better than anybody else on the planet. In a lot of ways, we don't at all.
Mm-hmm.
That we have that what is nothing to them is everything to us. What seems like one motivation or one way of thinking to them is something completely different to us. So that was actually, I was happy to hear. I had a good friend of mine actually just bought Dark Brew about 6 months ago, and he read it, and that was the part that stuck out to him. So I was really happy to hear that
That's
it was like that. What can be kind of that first thing I said, what can be our complete world is just a blip for somebody else.
Mm-hmm. Is that something that you hope people are going to get from your work? And is there anything else that you hope that when people read Dark Brew, they go, oh, XYZ?
So I think my biggest kind of like I mentioned earlier. Sorry, I'm going to form a whole sentence here.
You're fine.
One of my favorite things about Dark Brew and what I tried to do is just that whole thing of we all have these families that, while these characters are going to be nuanced in the culture of the region, that hopefully you're going to see your mom in Beatrice. You're going to, hopefully when you talk to Will, you're going to feel your angsty teenager come out. Or when you read Will, maybe it'll feel like talking, but when you read Will, you're going to feel your angsty teenager. I mean, that's the number one thing I would love to see or love to hear is that I saw my family in that. But I do also hope that it's Dark Brew is as much about the unspoken things that we tend to live with day to day in a family, just make all these assumptions and live these separate lives that all could be fixed with a simple conversation or, letting someone into your life a little bit more. That's what that book's really about.
I love that so much. Also, we've got Glenn who's joined us. Yes, I am capable of being serious sometimes. I know that's hard to believe, but I am. Do you know what? That's something that I wish people did more of, is just talk about stuff. I'll get messages from friends saying, oh, I like this guy, but I don't know if he likes it. Just ask him. You're an adult now, and it's absolutely fine to just have the conversation and have rejection and then move on from that. And there's lots of that's something I've learned with my partner, we're married, my husband, is that I would much rather have a difficult conversation with somebody quickly than sit in uncomfortable questions wondering what the hell is going on. And people should do that more, especially in family units, because if you can't do that, I mean, obviously it's more complex than that. Some people have very difficult family situations or no family at all. But the people around you that you are the closest with, you owe yourself the ability to sorry, Sarah's being sassy. You owe yourself that 2 seconds it takes to say this thing's bothering me, or we need to work on this thing. Sarah, I'm going to try and tell you what to do, but I know you won't listen to me. She's a maverick. You both of your books. So for those who have just joined us, so we're talking about Dark Brew at the moment, which came out in 2022, and Soaked, which came out this year. So both of them were published through indie presses. Dark Brew was, if I'm wrong, please correct me, was published with Unsolicited Press.
Correct.
And Soaked was with Cornerstone Press. So what was your experience like with getting published? Because it feels like it's this like really rare thing that people don't get to do in the sort of world that I'm moving in. So I'm like, how'd you do it? What happened?
So I kind of had to come to grips with, I don't write bestsellers, or at least I don't currently write bestsellers.
Not yet.
Not yet. While I tend to write, I think in the vein more of what indie presses like to publish, and I did a lot of querying over a long time. And I don't know if anybody's familiar with the publishing process. Query is basically your resume, your cover letter for your book, and you send them out to agents / publishers. Started with agents, and when it became very clear those are not the people I traffic in, I moved on to indie presses, and it it's a lot of I think just trying to find the right fit, because that's really what it is. Is finding the right fit, finding the right publisher that feels something about your work and will champion it, because that's what decides what they end up choosing, is how much they want to see this book come to life in the world. So I'll be honest though, you asked what it was like. The Dark Root got published probably about 2 or 3 weeks before I was going to give up altogether and just say,
Really?
I shouldn't be doing this. Yeah.
Wow.
I started with, just to kind of just to start to wet my writing whistle, I submitted to some magazines, and I got published in a few places, in magazines, literary magazines, and online sites and things like that. And it kind of, the bug bit me. I was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna move forward with this novel. And I started sending out for years. It was years that I was sending it out, and I was reaching a point of like, why am I doing this? It's just, at one point, do you get, how many rejection letters do you need to get before you take a hint? That's kind of where I was starting to get to. And I opened my email one morning, and there was an acceptance letter. And that was that. That just kind of all started things off. But in both cases, I have nothing to compare writing, publishing with a big house. I have nothing to compare it to. But I can say I've loved working with indie presses. They are so personable, so hands-on. And because they are oftentimes, they're completely personally invested in the success of a book. They have their own life savings tied up in the publishing company, that they champion all of the work. And it's so cool to be in places with them and have them talk about your work, like, oh, that's my work you're talking about? That's awesome, type of thing.
Yeah.
But they're really so fun to work with. And then there was an even added bonus to Cornerstone Press. Cornerstone Press is a student powered press that
Cool.
It's run by this person in the English department. He's a professor, and it's his baby. He kind of created the press. But everything that happens inside the press is done by the students. All the editing, all the
wow,
like the cover designs, the marketing. It's all students who are in getting a degree in publishing and marketing and things like that. So it's super cool. So when it got published, I even got to go up to the university and like talk to the class and do a reading at the university auditorium, and it was super cool.
That's very cool. I didn't know that was a thing. And now I'm very excited that it's a thing.
There's only 4 in the U.S. I don't know if there's any more outside of the U.S., but there's 4 in the U.S. One in Maryland, one in Wisconsin, which would be my publisher, one in New Orleans, and then I don't know where the other one is.
Wow. That's really cool. Big fan of that. There needs to be more of that. That's awesome. So that was Soaked.
That was Soaked, correct.
Okay. So tell me, and our lovely watchers, listeners, lurkers, creeps, whatever we're going to call them today, BOOKEDlings, could you tell us a little bit about this collection of stories?
Sure. So once again, it's set in Louisiana. I know.
It's a theme.
Yeah, this is a theme. I have that's kind of where everything is set, at least currently, that I've been working on. But it is a collection of short stories, 9 short stories. All of them are set in the future, so 50 years from now, roughly. And it's after climate change has intensified and half of the bottom of the state of Louisiana is underwater. And the 9 short stories focus on different pieces of Louisiana culture and how they could be impacted by the changing climate around us. So one is about food, one's about music, one's about wildlife, weather, faith, partying, government, industry. I think I hit them all. I don't know if that was 9, but you get the idea.
Yeah. So what what was your motivation behind basing the backbone of all of these stories around climate change? Is it something that is personally important to you, or is it something that was an engaging setting for your stories?
Climate change is important to me. It feels like it's the kind of the existential threat behind all other existential threats. And it also became really interesting to me to find out how it historically has become how so many things happened, and why huge human migrations happened over the course of
Mm.
time. I think I was reading something years ago. I didn't even know about this. That what I mean, think about the potato famine in Ireland. Think about in Italy, in Sicily, there was, I think it was a drought that
Hmm.
caused a lot of the Sicilians to leave, which kind of spurned the mafia in America.
Hmm.
So like mafia in America exists because of climate stuff. So it's like things like that just to me
Yeah.
are fascinating. But specifically in where I'm from in Louisiana, we're kind of in the crosshairs.
Hmm.
We are kind of getting swallowed up by the Gulf of Mexico from three different directions.
Hmm.
First of all, there's sea level rise. Secondly, there's subsidence. I can never say that word right, but we're sinking.
Yes.
And also erosion. We
Hmm.
lose about a football field's worth of land every hour in Louisiana. Um,
What the?
mhm.
That doesn't sound right. I'm not saying you're wrong, but that's so unbelievable.
I'd love to say that that's
Yeah,
not right.
I think it's because I want you to be wrong because that's
I
what.
would love for me to be wrong.
Yeah. Oh, that's horrible.
There's yeah, it's we're really losing land fast,
Yeah.
and the way it used to be because of the way this geologically we were designed, the state could rebuild itself through
Hmm.
the the silt that would come from the rivers, but those rivers have been redirected and now they don't build coastline. So basically, the story is the backbone of that came from this is already a reality. We're already losing whole cultures and communities. There is a tribe. I think it's Ile des Chiens, the Ile des Chiens tribe, just
Hmm.
off the coast. The entire tribe has been there for thousands of years,
Hmm.
and they are having to completely relocate the entire tribe off of the island because it is sinking into the ocean. Um, so it's already happening,
Hmm.
and and what I wanted to do in the book was just explore we know what that means for moving our houses.
Hmm.
We know what that means for potentially even we somewhat know what it might mean for things like the fishing industry or the oil industry.
Hmm.
But do we know what that changes about who we see ourselves as our culture? Like what makes us who we are? Because especially in Louisiana, we have some pretty iconic cultural stuff happening there.
Hmm.
We have New Orleans, we have all the great food and the great music. Well, what happens when the land that created all of that
Hmm.
starts to just disappear?
Interesting. So, is it something like similar to Dark Room where you have focused on people's mindsets and how they get to that point and what motivates them?
Absolutely. So each story
Hmm.
is it's a different. There is some intersection. I will say that this is a connected collection. So
Hmm.
you'll start to see characters reappear in further stories later in the collection. But each one, it just became a really fun. Honestly, it was a lot of fun to just think, what if? I knew I
Hmm.
wanted to do something around food, and I was like, well, what would be something about food in the future
Mm.
that might be changing, that might bring our current cuisines under threat. So I had fun with that. And the thing I came up with is that people were moving to um, non-meat based proteins, that they're
Mm.
moving more toward lab grown meats, which have been appearing. I don't know if you've seen that, have been appearing in the news, the lab grown
Hmm.
meats. And the food in Louisiana is very animal protein based.
Hmm.
Vegetarians and vegans don't fare well with traditional cuisine in the state. So I wanted to start playing with that. Like, what would it be like if the mainstay of our cuisine, which is often animal protein, what if it just wasn't as accessible or was considered passe or ignorant or something like that? What would that
Hmm.
mean? I also Um, one of my favorites is weather. I mean, we have hurricanes. I couldn't write a book about climate change and not have a hurricane,
Hmm.
or several. There's two different large hurricanes referenced
Hmm.
in the collection, and one is about, what about the most ultimate hurricane party? Because what hurricane parties, I don't know if you're familiar with those.
I'm not. No, I'm
Okay,
from
so
England originally, so
hurricane parties are
yeah.
very important in Louisiana culture. It is basically, it originally started as an end of the world party because if you knew a hurricane was coming and you couldn't get out of the way, might as well enjoy yourself if you're going to make it
Fair
through.
enough.
So that
Uh-huh.
was the original impetus of it. But it also was a way for the community to join together,
Hmm.
and to share resources. A lot of times, there would be a giant cookout before a hurricane because you lose your electricity, which means no freezer, no fridge. So everybody they just cook everything in the freezer and the fridge, and you'd have a giant feast. You'd have food cooked and everything and ready to go, and neighbors would share with one another. So it became both a celebration in advance of this horrible thing, but also a way for a community to share resources and to support each other.
You're making me flip flop between I never want to live there and I want to live there, and I don't know how to think. So I know that you live there for most of your life. Do you miss it?
I do. I mean, I feel honestly, it's funny to hear you say that because that's exactly how I feel about Louisiana too. Like
Really?
depending on the time of day, I'm like, oh, I miss home. And the next thing I'm like, whew, I'm so glad I'm here.
Fair enough.
It totally goes back and forth. I mean, it really is a place so rich in people and culture and
Mm.
history. It's got a lot of broken pieces to it.
Mhm.
There's a lot of things, and of course that's true of everywhere. But I think there's Louisiana often feels like it lives looking behind it, like it's always looking in the rearview mirror while
Mm.
driving forward, which probably really is a good depiction of how we make some of the decisions that we make when we crash into things sometimes. But the beautiful parts the old parts that we hold on to, there's some really amazing, beautiful stuff there. I
Mm.
miss all of those things. Again, I miss the people. I miss the accents, because
Mhm.
we have some good ones.
There's a huge range of accents that I have only ever experienced with watching television, and
Mhm.
it's like on my like my list of places I want to visit because the only state I've ever visited is Texas, and that's where I live. I didn't do a lot of shopping around when I was immigrating. I just thought, I'll go there. Sarah has asked, "How do you come up with such fascinating topics to write about?"
Oh, well, first of all, I'm happy to hear they're fascinating. I so Actually, this connects really back with your question, Saffron.
Mhm.
Louisiana is such it is its own character. It is its own place. Like it is a character of a place that
Mm.
you, in living there, you are always interacting with the character of wherever you are in Louisiana, whether it be New Orleans, Lafayette, Baton Rouge, Shreveport. It's not my favorite, but it's got a character. It's not a good one, but it's a character. Um, it's So I feel like the topics that come from this are just part of the character of place.
Mhm.
It is part of um, growing up and interacting with an environment that can be hostile at
Mhm.
times, people that can be warm, and it always all out of all of those things. That's where the well of topics, I think, always comes from.
Mhm.
Um, just to give an example, I grew up right next to the largest continuous swamp in the U.S. The Everglades are the largest collection of swamps in the
Mhm.
U.S., but the Atchafalaya Basin in central Louisiana, south central Louisiana, is the largest continuous swamp in the United States. It's um, easy to get lost in, with constantly moving pieces of land and like little inlets and things like that.
Mhm.
It is extremely intricate. It is full of creatures that will easily, dismember you or even just devour you whole. And it is simultaneously the most beautiful place.
Mhm.
One of the most beautiful places I've ever seen. And a
Mhm.
lot of people have mixed feelings, like how can a swamp be beautiful? But to me, it's gorgeous.
Full of life, aren't they?
Yeah, it's if you're, 6 o'clock in the morning and there's a mist right over the water and a beautiful white snowy egret flies across that mist into a giant, beautiful cypress tree. You're surrounded by water and it's silent except for the plop of a fish every few minutes. There's not much more peace than that in the world.
Mhm.
But at the same time, like I just mentioned, you're in a place that could kill you instantly. Um, so and again in Louisiana, this lush, beautiful environment where a hurricane can mow your whole family down and take away your house
Mhm.
right from its moorings. Um, so as far as like creating fascinating topics, I think whenever I write about Louisiana, it's all of these juxtapositions, it's all of these contradictions that
Mm.
all I have to do is explore that. And I feel like there's always something there.
Do you find that when you're writing about your hometown or your home state, do you ever find yourself romanticizing actually what it's like, and do you ever like have to bring yourself back to reality, um, or is that just how you like to remember it?
Um, it's a very, very good question.
Thank
Um,
you. I love it when people say that. I go, oh god, good. I'm glad it's a good question. Anyway,
I um, I do catch myself romanticizing about it sometimes.
Mhm.
Yeah, I do. Um, I think part of it's this interesting thing because we are mythologized from outside all the time. I think about the Princess and the Frog, Disney's Princess and the Frog. That was like that is a perfect example of how mythologized we can be.
Mhm.
And the various movies that have been made there. I think about True Blood. That was another one that
I loved True Blood.
mhm, so mythologized us. Um,
Because they were vampires.
there were some there were some good ones. Um, and I think I get caught up in that sometimes. Looking from the outside, that it is a really cool place. It is a very neat place. But I do try in my writing, and I really tried, especially in Dark Room, to
Mhm.
give you the everything behind the curtain. That you don't just see the romanticized pieces of it. They're definitely there, and they're there for a reason. Just kind of like they say, stereotypes exist for a reason.
Mhm.
There's that for where we are, but there's also all the things that you don't see behind the stereotypes.
Mhm.
That of course we are very warm people who don't typically say unkind things, but that also means that there's a ton of passive aggressiveness that we will also use because we won't say unkind things, but we also won't say kind things.
Yeah.
Depending there's a lot of backhanded compliments. In fact,
Oh.
one of my favorites is in French. I heard somebody say it one time. It was "Il n'est pas fou mais il fait drôle." It means he's not crazy, but he does funny.
That's fantastic. I love that. Oh, I don't mind a bit of passive aggressiveness, especially if it's from an older person. I don't know what it is. I feel like
It's
older people can get away with stuff like that.
it's earned at that point. It's been
It
earned.
is. It is. There's I don't know what it is about a sassy old lady that I am just a big fan of. Um, that was totally unrelated, but I did have a question about Soaked. So you listed a bunch of things that were related to like earth sciences and um, actual things that are happening, but also like the cuisine side of things. Obviously, you're going to have had personal experience with that, but did you have to do much research to make it as truthful, although it's predicted future, as possible, or is it something that has less layers of truth and more fictionalization?
It's both. I did take some liberties when writing some things.
Mhm.
But I did need to do a lot of research,
Mhm.
and I was so thankful to have both good teachers around me, um, but also lots of access to different resources
Mhm.
online and everything. One of the places that I went to a lot was NOAA's website, and there's actually a sea level rise map that you can pull up that's interactive.
Hmm.
You can raise the sea level to whatever degree you'd like to see. It goes from 0 feet, I think, to 10 feet, 10-foot sea level rise. Um, and I went ahead and I just pushed it all the way up to 10 foot and looked at where the Gulf was in Louisiana. And it was right now, my hometown, Lafayette. Technically, I'm from a little bitty town called Scott, but the bigger town next door is Lafayette. Lafayette is about, I think, 30 miles from the
Mhm.
coast, 30 or 40 miles from the coast, and at a 10-foot sea level rise, the coast is just about at Lafayette. Just to give you an idea of how far the coast has moved. Um, so I looked at resources like that. I also have, I'm very happy to say I have a great friend here who owns an independent bookstore and has been so supportive with both of my books.
That's cool.
But she has done everything. Every cool thing you could think of, she's done. She lived in a like co-op type, not co-op, what am I thinking of? Where it's kind of like a co-op, but you're out in the woods farming. What am I thinking? What's the word I'm looking for here?
I don't know.
Okay.
I know what you're talking about, but I don't know the word. And the only word that's flashing in my brain is cult, and I know that's not what you're trying to say.
It was kind of when she describes it. It was a little culty.
Commune?
Commune. There we go.
Okay.
She's lived in a commune. She's been a poet, a traveling poet. She's been a traveling musician. She has worked as a researcher in environmental science and was like
Andy.
at a university. Yeah, very handy. At a university setting, like, and now she owns an independent bookstore here in Austin and has been again just a gem, so supportive. But we talked a lot about things like the continental shelf. That in Louisiana, the continental shelf is actually right around where my hometown is. That everything between my hometown and the Gulf is kind of like borrowed from the Gulf, so to speak. And when the Gulf decides to take it back, it will.
Yeah.
So it was things like that, those types of conversations, that types of research. I did take some liberties. I put a lot of water around Baton Rouge. It probably will never get that way. It's just far enough upstream that it probably won't. But I went in and did it because it made for a good story.
Yeah. Sometimes you have to do that. And that's okay. It's not like you're writing an encyclopedia,
It's true.
which was really hard for me to say. Encyclopedia. Okay, I've said it right now. I feel better. Before I ask you my next question, if anybody has any questions for Toby at all, please put them in the chat. Obviously, make them appropriate. Don't be creepy. So you have 2 books out. Are you writing anything else? Are you going to write anything else? What is next for you?
Yes to both. I have a novel finished. It is currently in editing. I'm sad to say it was going to come out, but there have been some. It was going to come out this summer, and then there have been some publishing issues, snafus that don't really have to do with the novel, but there's some issues there.
Okay.
But it's finished. It's currently being edited. It's back on submission, so hopefully somebody picks it up. And that one is, I know this is going to shock all of you. It's set in Louisiana.
No.
Yeah, I know.
Oh
right?
my goodness, what?
But it's about this. It's set during and immediately after Hurricane Katrina, and it is about 2 neighbors who survive the storm together, but they are trapped on their roofs and they don't really trust each other, and it has to do with a lot of kind of similar to Dark Rue, like they've just never made the attempt to get to know each other. But there's also these other pieces of like sexism and racism that are stuck in between them that they have to work through to kind of survive the storm together. And because what like are the things that people had, their material goods were so important directly after the storm, because basically everybody had lost everything. The things that the main character, the woman, carries, Ophelia, they end up telling her story as she drops them on her way to freedom. And so the novel is called Debris. So that's hopefully going to be coming out sooner rather than later. I also have a novella that I wanted to just try a novella, and it was a lot of fun. And I decided to take it out of Louisiana, and it's going to Chile and Antarctica is where this one's going.
Also very far away from one another.
Very far away. Well, it's about, again, this one's going to be, again, climate change based, but it focuses more on grief and nostalgia and letting go of of nostalgia and processing one's grief,
Mhm.
which, just so you know, my counseling stuff definitely came in on this one. This
Oh,
one.
you figured.
And then I decided to face. So I'm also a parent. I have two little ones. I have a
Mhm.
13-year-old and 11-year-old.
Mhm.
And I decided to face some of my own fears about the world changing and climate becoming more hostile to us.
Mhm.
So a lot of it is about parenting too.
Cool. Oh, I bet that is full of a ton of emotions for you.
And then I tried to fit it. I don't know what made me decide to fit it into 40,000 words, but that's where it ended.
It is a good exercise to write something impactful but succinctly. So it's helpful for development. But you did it. It sounds like you did it. So
I mean, I don't know if it's any good. I have it with some beta readers right now. I'm waiting for them to either tell me it's good or tell me that we're not friends anymore. So
I feel like that's quite a jump. It's quite a big jump, actually. Okay, so we have some comments in the chat. Sarah's been very complimentary about your name. Not a
thank
question,
you.
just a statement. And Mark has joined us from Mark's, well, it's from the Book Lounge, but I read his username by accident. So Mark is a booktuber, very cool dude. And did you enjoy writing the novella or the novels more?
That's a good question. I so if I'm going to be honest, I enjoyed writing short stories more. They are just so much easier to contain. You really only have to deal with one story arc, and it feels like it gives you a lot more freedom to do a lot more. Again, kind of what you're saying, Saffron, about just a little bit of space.
Yeah.
It focusing on I want to tell the best story I can from this snapshot of this situation or this person's life.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say the short stories were a lot of fun because it was also it really led to world building more. The novel was a lot more about relationships. It was a lot more about that story arc. But the short story I could focus on kind of again that the atmosphere, the region as character, and really build out that part of the character. The novella, it was genuinely somewhere between those two things. That is maybe why I don't know if it ever will see the light of day, if it will ever come out somewhere, because I kind of was stuck in between those two things. I wanted to build out these relationships, but I also wanted to stick to these ideas and stick to these concepts. So I would say it was fun to just challenge myself, but it was a lot harder than I think I may have bit off more than I can chew, but we'll see.
It's part of the process. It's part of the development of writing, and it's part of your development as a person. Is it something? I asked half of that question in my head. Is okay. When you see yourself writing in the future and planning projects, because I imagine you probably got other ideas stewing, do you find that you are still probably going to largely lean towards a people focused story arc as opposed to something that's like more fictional, because it sounds like all of the like relationship dynamics and the thoughts and feelings and stuff feel very very real, even though
Mhm.
they're fictional characters. Do you see yourself like moving away from that in any way, or is that like your style? Is that what you're sticking with?
I think it's my style, at
Mhm.
least for right now.
Mhm.
I'm already starting to see. Um, I'm already starting to see some things changing in the way I write. I don't know if I'll ever get completely away from human relationships and the people aspect part of things being kind of front and center. I don't know if that part will ever change, but I am realizing that um, how I want to tell that story and how much I want, because what again, going back to Debris,
Mhm.
um, the story is told, like the backstory is told by the things that she's dropping.
Mhm.
So these inanimate objects, and I deliberately and purposefully, whenever I was writing those sections, I would write at the top of the section, like, if this object were a person, what kind of person would it be?
Mhm.
This was a young, sweet 4-year-old girl, and that was what the doll was.
Mhm.
The high heels were a fabulous gay man. And so whenever I write them from that perspective, it added this
Mm.
layer that I really, really enjoyed of having these having something that wasn't necessarily people centered, that it was story centered and it was atmospheric centered.
Mm.
That was kind of cool.
It's very clear to me what you truly care about in life. And that is very cool. And you're obviously doing the right thing in your professional life as well. Um, Before I ask you my next questions, I promise I'm not going to grill you too much longer. We have Mike Molman has joined the chat from Bold and Bolding. How you doing, Mike? Mark has just read the synopsis for Soaked, and it sounds very good.
Great, thanks.
And Sarah said that she might get Dark Row as a Christmas present to herself this year,
Oh,
which I think is a dope Christmas present, and I encourage you to do that. Here we go. Toby. Richard has been to New Orleans over half a dozen times. To him, one of the integral parts of its personality is the prevalence of music. Has that had any impact on your writing?
yes. In fact, going back to Soaked, one of the sections is about music, and specifically around how music speaks to our authenticity, and speaks to who we want to be and who we are.
Mhm.
I grew up in a very musical place. New Orleans has one of the richest musical histories of anywhere, maybe even in the world. I'll go ahead and claim it. The world.
Yeah, you can throw that out there.
Thanks. But I also I grew up with music all around me. I grew up in a very Cajun community, in a very Cajun household. I no longer have the accent I once had, but for the purposes to demonstrate this, I can turn that on and off comme ça. I can throw some French in there like that, and my accent comes out real strong and around my family. I have a few drinks, or I get real pissed off. And that was like, even the language itself to me was music, the intonations and the rhythms. But I also even grew up in a musical family. My great uncle taught himself the accordion to play in his Cajun band, and his son taught himself the accordion, and then his son. So 3 generations each taught themselves the accordion.
That's amazing.
And in fact, my cousin, if you want to look up his stuff, his name is Beau Bayou. So Beau Bayou. That's my cousin. He has a big old bass voice. He's awesome voice. But I grew up with all this music all around me. And I almost I feel like when I'm writing some scenes, there's a soundtrack. And in fact, I mean, I say that's true for, I think, even characters. One of my favorite literary exercises to try and get to the bottom of a personality of a character is, if they had a theme song, what would it be? And so when you start to hum that theme song, or you start to think about it in your head as you're writing that person, it starts creating the character for you. So writing plays a huge role, or excuse me, music plays a huge role in everything that I do with writing. And if nothing else, I have it on in the background a lot of times.
Do you? Is it like lyricless?
I have to have lyrics. Like I have to have everything. I have just instrumental, but I have lyrics too. I know that it does mess with your phonological loop while you're trying to write, but I'll pause to kind of soak it all in. Just so y'all know, speaking of music, if you want to know how much it's a big deal, Unsolicited Press challenged all of us to create a playlist for our books whenever they came out. So if you go to my website, and it's just TobyLeBlancAuthor.com, you scroll down, it'll say Dark Root playlist. It'll take you to a Spotify playlist, and that is the playlist that I connected to Dark Root, and a lot of the songs that I love listening to just when I'm writing, or anything. It's kind of one of my soundtracks.
Awesome. I did put the link in the chat as well. And if you're watching the recording of this, there will be links in the description of the video. So go and look at that, please. Awesome. I do have a couple more questions for you.
Excellent.
So at any point during that period of time where you were like, nobody wants this thing I've written, I'm just going to stop, did you ever consider actually just self-publishing?
I did. So I've learned about the self-publishing track, and I've seen people do it and kind of researched it and tried to learn about it, and I don't think it's for me.
Fair enough.
I don't think it plays to my strengths, and I don't know if because it takes a lot of self championing. Saffron and I were talking about this actually just before this started.
Mm-hmm.
I'm terrible at self promotion. I my humor kind of leans towards self deprecation. Um, people ask me, is your book good? I'm like, yeah, it's not a bad way to spend your afternoon. Hopefully, that's about as far as I can get. As a lot of times, as far as self promotion, and to be self published, you have to do that all day, every day, to talk about your book
Mm-hmm.
and to champion it. I'm not as good about that, so I I don't think I would have done it. I think I needed kind of just a publisher to be like, yeah, he's good. It's good enough. At least for them to say that, for me to then say anything about it afterwards. But
Yeah.
no, I don't think I would have done it.
Okay. I totally get needing the affirmation from somebody that is perceived as an expert or more experienced in the field, because especially if it's something like it's the first one that you've done, or you're kind of newer to sharing your writing with human beings, I can see why it would be very off-putting. And watching people querying is off-putting to me, and watching people self-publish is off-putting to me. But I will finish my book, and I will make somebody read it that's not part of my family.
You heard it here, folks.
But I'm not saying when. Might be in about 50 years, but anyway, I can totally understand why you wouldn't want to, and it's not for everybody. It is not for the faint of heart, and it's not for people who you can't be successful as a self-published author and ignore the fact that you have to basically constantly talk about how people need to read your book. And yes, Mike, you have to talk about your books when you have them out there and you want people to read them. I mean, you could just let it sit there. I see a lot of people let it sit there and then they complain that nobody's read their book, but they assume people are just going to flock to it even though they don't know it exists. It is, oh man, it's a ton of work. I'm not looking forward to it in any way. I don't make which book. That needs to be more clear, Sarah. I have one last question for you. So if anybody has any questions for Toby, please put them in the chat, because this is your last chance. Because my dog needs to go outside. And she is looking at me like I just swore at her, and that's not true. What does success look like to you as a writer?
I feel like I'm going to regret saying this,
Okay.
but I think I already had it. It was a person that I met here in Austin. We got to be good friends. Our kids played baseball together, and we started talking. And she's from where I'm from. And we learned this because right about that time I was publishing Dark Rue, and we just started chatting about where we were from. She's a Cajun mom with a family of her own here now. And she read my book, and I had learned she's not an incredibly expressive person, but she pulled me aside at actually her son's birthday party, or sorry, our mutual, one of the other baseball kids' birthday parties. That's what it was. And she said, I need to talk to you. And she said, your book was about my life. Your book was about everything I remember growing up. It had all the people I grew up with. And it made me feel really validated. And
that's really
I was like,
cool.
okay, that was it. That was my success moment. I think so. In Louisiana, we have a phrase, or we have a word. I actually don't think it's a French word. I think it might be Native American, but we have the word lagniappe, which just means extra. And everything since that conversation has just been lagniappe. It's just been a little icing on the cake, but that was the cake.
That is so wholesome. I love that for you. That's really cool. What a lovely experience. My dog keeps pushing my chair. She's so small, but she's mighty. Okay, so I will not stop shading you in the show, Sarah, because you are constantly. I'm surprised that she's not. Usually, she tries to start fights with people and threatens to go in the park. And this is. I'm going to mute my microphone for just a second. She's not going to stop. So if barking dogs bother you, anyone that's listening, I'm so sorry. I can't do anything about it. She's protecting the house. What has been the? I'm going to ask you a question. What has been the most rewarding part of your journey as a writer so far? I'm so sorry.
It has been the most rewarding part of the conversations I get to have with people. The writing of things is fantastic. It's so cool to see ideas come out on the page, to see them then turn into a book, to see them, to read them to other people, and have other people read them. But to have conversations and just talk about what is it that you connected with in the book. Soaked has been so much fun because people have different favorites, like different favorite stories. So it's so much fun to ask them, like, what was your favorite, and to hear why, because then you're learning about them. You're learning about what matters to them and where their story connects with yours, and that there's no drug that's better than that.
That's awesome. Have you tried them all? That was horrible.
All right, jury's out, but so far.
Tried the good ones. That's very cool. It's quite obvious to me that you are somebody that likes to use writing as a way of connecting with people, and it sounds like you're doing it fairly successfully. So that's very cool. Sarah said that she wouldn't threaten you because she respects you too much, which is a wonderful compliment, I will say, because I don't think that anyone has reached that level of respect yet. So congratulations.
Thanks.
Well, those are all the questions that we have in the chat. I'm sorry that my dog got involved. That's the first time that's happened, and she is sassy. She's sassy at the moment. I did walk her, but she pretends like I haven't. This is something that is unrelated, but Darla is live and out in the Twitter world. I haven't looked at it yet. So Darla, I will give you an explanation, Toby. So Mike hosts a show called Bald and Balding, and there are some special episodes where people will come on and create a fantasy-based creature. And the fantasy-based creature that was featured on the show that I was on a few weeks ago, we named Darla. So we'll have to have a look at that. That's very exciting. Thank you for letting us know. If I'm excited to see what this thing looks like, because it was really weird. It was a weird pink mohawked swamp creature that only spoke Spanish. So we'll see what happens. That's excellent.
I think.
We'll take a look at that after this. But thank you so much for joining me today. It's been such a pleasure talking to you, and I feel like I know you a little better, and I hope that whoever listens to this, watches this, has already watched this, is compelled to read your work because it's fascinating. Just thank you. I really appreciate you.
Well, thank you.
I'm now going to awkwardly say goodbye, and we're going to wave. And I'll see you backstage. Please don't hang up on me.